Welcome to your review for subtracting mixed numbers. What we remember is that a mixed number is simply a number that has a whole number part and a fractional part. So in this example, 3 3/4 and 1 1/8 are both mixed numbers. On the left-hand side of your screen, you see a picture of what 3 3/4 looks like. And what we know is that we need to take away 1 1/8 of that picture. So that's 1 whole and 1/8. So the first thing that we would do is we can subtract our whole numbers here. So we have our 3 wholes minus 1 whole leaves us, if we take one of those out, with 2 wholes. Okay. And then we need to take away this 1/8 here still. And we need to do that by taking these fourths and splitting them into eighths. And then we can take away one of those. And so what we did is we did our 3/4 and we made that into 6/8. Then we took our 6/8 minus 1/8 is 5/8. And then we need to put those together to get our answer. So we have 2 5/8. The first thing that I notice here is that my two fractional parts do not have the same denominator. So I'm going to go ahead and find my least common denominator for both of those, and that number, of course, will be 6. So I went ahead and did that, and you can see I've now changed them so that they have the same denominator. So I have 5 4/6 and 3 1/6. What I'll do here is I will subtract my whole numbers. 5 minus 3 is 2. And then I will subtract my fractions. 4/6 minus 1/6 is 3/6. And then I'll take those two parts and put them together. And I have 2 3/6. And if I'm being really careful, I know that 3/6 is the same as 1/2. So I need to simplify that fraction. So I'll rewrite it as 2 1/2. So 5 2/3 minus 3 1/6 gives us 2 1/2. So I'm starting once again with these mixed numbers. I have 4 5/9 this time and 2 5/6. And again, I notice that they do not have a common denominator. So what I'll do is I'll change those so that they do have a common denominator. And for 9 and 6, that number is 18. Once I do this, I can see that I have 4 10/18 minus 2 15/18. So I go to subtract my whole numbers. I have my 4 minus 2 is 2. And then I go to subtract my fractions. 10/18 minus 15/18. And then I get stuck. So before you hit the panic button, let's just stop and think about what we might be able to do here. All right, so we know we're in this situation because this fractional part here, this 10/18, is less than this fractional part over here, this 15/18. So that's causing the problem that we're having because we don't want to subtract 15 from 10 and end up with negative 5/18. That is confusing to us. So the tool that we always have at our disposal is to just take our mixed numbers and turn them into another form that we're used to seeing. And that form is the improper fraction form. If you're not sure how to do that, you should go over and visit the improper fractions and mixed numbers video on the YouTube site. Now that I've changed them over to improper fractions, I see that I have 82/18 minus 51/18, and that's a problem that I'm able to do. I just take 82 minus 51, and that is 31. And then our denominator stays the same because we're just talking about the size of the pieces here. And then of course what we want to do is we look at that and we see 31/18 is still an improper fraction, so we want to go back to a mixed number in order to keep it in that same format. And when I do that, I have 1 and 13/18. So our answer here to this problem is 1 and 13/18. So if we take a look at this same type of problem again, the first thing we're going to do is find that common denominator. Okay, so we have 5 and 1/3 becomes 5 and 4/12. 3 and 3/4 becomes 3 and 9/12. We have that same situation again where our first fraction here is larger than this fraction, so we're going to change them into improper fractions. When I do that, I get 64/12 minus 45/12, and then I can subtract the two of those, and I have 19/12. Then I go back to a mixed number and I end up with 1 and 7/12. Okay, so the first thing we did was we found that common denominator. Then the second thing we did was we changed them to improper fractions. Okay, then we subtracted. And then we went back to a mixed number. Let's see how that might work with this problem. So I know that the common denominator for 2 and 7 here is going to be 14. So I change this to 3 and 7/14. And I'm going to subtract 1 and 2/14. And immediately I notice that in this problem I don't have that same issue I was having before. I have 7/14 and 2/14, which is a simple enough problem to do to subtract. So here I can change them to improper fractions if I want, but that's just going to make more work for me later. So I'm going to stick to subtracting the whole number parts, which is the 3 minus 1, which is 2. Subtracting the fraction parts, 7/14 minus 2/14 is 5/14. And then we take those two parts and we put them back together again. Of course, that is 2 and 5/14. All right, so here are some things to remember. Your first job is to figure out if you have a common denominator or not. If you do not have a common denominator here, you want to find one. If you already have a common denominator, then this step is easy because it's already done for you. The next thing you want to do is examine the fractional parts of the mixed numbers to decide if you need to change them to improper fractions or not. If you can just subtract as is, then you'll follow this path. You'll subtract your whole numbers, then you'll subtract your fractions, and then you can just combine your answers. If you find yourself in a situation where you can't do that, where the fraction that you're subtracting is larger than the fraction you started with, then your strategy is to change to an improper fraction, then subtract, and then change it back to a mixed number. The nice thing is you can actually use that strategy in any situation that you're in when you're subtracting mixed numbers. So if you always want to change to an improper fraction first, as a rule, you can. You just have to know that it's creating more work for you later. And then, of course, remember, in all cases, you need to simplify where possible. All right, that's it. I hope that you found this informative and helpful. You can always go back to the beginning and watch it again if you need to.